After living in South Italy for over 7 years, would I still move here today knowing everything that I do now? There's a lot to unpack with this, so we're going to talk about it from two different angles. The first is work and career, and the second is quality of life, because that's a really meaty topic, which can be broken down into a few different areas encompassing language, connections, and everyday living. So let's begin with work and career. Now, I need to give you some context, especially if you're new here and this is the first time that you have discovered my videos. Welcome. I'm happy to have you here. You need to know that when I lived in London, I was a police officer, and then I left the police to become an entrepreneur, and then I moved to Italy. So I moved to Italy with the mindset of an entrepreneur. Now, when I moved here, I secured a job at a school with a contract, and partly that was quite strategic of me because I knew that was probably the simplest route to setting my life up here than starting a business would have been. And I think I was correct, because when you have a work contract, you have access to healthcare. It becomes easier to obtain rental agreements and to set your life up in other areas, more so than when you start a business from scratch with no pre-existing history in this country, right? So I have to be honest and say that I truly believe that once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. When you've had your own business and you've been used to dictating your working hours and choosing when to have time off and being in control of all aspects of your life, to go back to being an employee again is really, really difficult. And I have to be honest, even after all of this time, I still don't think I fully adjusted to that. So everything that I'm talking to you about in this part of the video comes with that context behind it, because we all have different career paths and journeys that we've been on, but that is mine. So I kind of feel that when it comes to work, there are so many aspects of it that you can talk about, like the skills, the experience, the people that you get to meet as a result of your job. But then, of course, there is the pay, which, let's be honest with you, like that is the most important thing for most people, right? Now, if we're just going to solely look at the pay alone and not include any of those other aspects that I've just mentioned, I would absolutely never move to the south of Italy for the pay alone. Absolutely not. Because what I earn now in my job is less than the yearly national minimum wage in the UK. Now, everything is relative, as I've spoken about before. Of course, things do cost less in the south of Italy. And if I were to move to a different part of Italy, potentially I could earn a little bit more, but then the cost of everything else increases too. But I will also say that this is becoming a little bit outdated because everything is gradually increasing in price. And so people who live in the south of Italy with salaries that are that low do struggle at points when the cost of everyday items starts to increase. And I will also say that if you're living on your own and this is your only means of salary, it can be difficult to save money or to live this kind of lavish lifestyle that you might want to, because generally speaking, what you earn is enough for you to live and get the things that you need. If you live with another person who also works, you can have perhaps a bit more of a comfortable existence. But it's not this grand, lavish lifestyle that you may necessarily get on the pay here in the south of Italy. And I'm just needing to set that expectation straight. And so I think if you are measuring your career progression based on salary and monetary needs, I definitely don't think the south of Italy is someone that you should consider. Now, if you're going to look at the other aspects, like the skills, the experience, the people that you meet, I have found working here in the south of Italy to be one of the most rewarding experiences. I've met some fantastic people having taught English here now for 7 years. And I have to be honest and say that that alone is priceless, because it's difficult to integrate into a new country. And I remember when I moved here, I really wanted a job that would help me to do that. And when you get to meet new people on a very regular basis and you get to learn about their life and you get to understand a bit more about the Italian culture and customs, it really, really helps you to integrate in a way like no other. So I think for that aspect, I definitely would move to the south of Italy for the experience, for the personal growth that your work here can provide, depending on what you do, of course. But for the money, no. Now, when it comes to career progression, this is interesting because I don't think people progress very much in their careers here in the south of Italy. And it does depend on what you do, of course. But certainly for me, I will remain at this level forever, the entire time that I remain with my school. Like, there's no way that I can progress within the company. Now, if you're quite an ambitious person and you want to, build your skills and move up within an organisation, you have to choose your job role very carefully, because not a lot of job roles give you that possibility. And so I kind of feel sometimes progression here can feel stunted. Like, you can't really make the leaps and bounds that you might be able to make in other companies in other countries. So I feel like that part of it isn't as appealing either, because if you know that where you are now in your job is the best that you will ever be in that job, depending on the type of person you are, sometimes that can be very, very demotivating. So that would be something that I wouldn't move to the south of Italy for, absolutely. If you're looking for career progression, you're not necessarily going to find it here. Now, I will say that, can you find better paid professions here? Of course you can. Like, I think in the healthcare sector, they are always crying out for international doctors and nurses. If you have a specific skill set, absolutely, I think you can probably earn more and also have better career progression. But those doors are not open to everyone. And so I don't think it's as appealing a place to work in if you're really interested in, well, so far, your pay and your career progression. Now, I'm going to come at this from a slightly different way as well because of opportunity. I come at this from the angle of my content creation. Okay, so what I do here on YouTube and on my other platforms. Now, I don't feel like there are many opportunities to meet people who do similar things here in Italy in this kind of sector. And I find that the big events that I really want to go to, organised by YouTube or organised by other companies, they tend to be back in the UK, which is the reason I went back recently. And so it's a shame sometimes, because I feel in a way I have limited my opportunities by living here in Italy in terms of content creation. But it's just the way that it is. And you also notice that, for example, when the platforms roll out updates or they roll out new features for creators to try, Italy is not normally one of the first countries to receive that function. Like, we're normally either in the middle or somewhere at the end. Like, the UK and America tend to be like the top two places where creators get to sample new features and try new things first. So it does feel sometimes that I'm a little bit backwards by living here in terms of like the opportunities that I can receive and gain. And a lot of that could be because I'm in the south of Italy. I get it. Like, in the north of Italy, I do think sometimes there can be more opportunities, but it all depends, right? Everything is relative. But I would also say to you that it's not easy, even for Italians, okay? Like, certain public sector roles and professions require you to take what is known as a concorso, which is a public competition or contest, which involves sitting, taking exams. There may be like a language, like English usually, element to it as well. But those public competitions are almost like a farce, because there are usually only a handful of jobs that are being advertised, and the number of applicants is usually well into the thousands. So it's a bit of a lost cause, really. And I see why there is this kind of stalemate here in the south of Italy when it comes to employment, because people just don't know what to do. They leave education and sometimes they'll take other jobs just to make ends meet, just to earn some money, but they don't really know how they can progress themselves and how they can grow. And I see it as well with people staying stuck in the education system because they think, maybe they can improve their prospects by getting yet another degree or specialising in a different subject. But then when they leave university, they're always faced with that kind of quandrum of, oh, do you have any experience? And usually the answer is no. So it's super complicated here for work. On a whole, because I'm going to give this as a generic answer, I don't think I would move here for work. In my stage of life at the moment, like with the experience that I've already had in my life and where I'm kind of at in this period, this works for me. I'm happy here. Like, I don't have any regrets in terms of work and career. But I do see that in other countries, there's a little bit more, right? There's more incentive, more motivation, more support even, especially if you want to start your own business. And I feel like that at times can feel lacking here in the south of Italy especially. So it's this. I wouldn't move to the south of Italy for work and careers, I'm honest. If your motivation is different, if your reason to come here isn't solely based on that, then fair enough. But if it is, I really would sit and think about your decision, because I'm not sure it's the right one to make, depending on where you're at in your life, of course. Now, the second angle I want to come at this from is, of course, that your quality of life. And as I said before, it's a really meaty topic because it encompasses so many different things. If we're going to look at that from the perspective of language, well, it's not easy to live in a country where your language is not spoken. And it's not easy to adjust to dialects and to navigate your everyday life. Like the simplest of tasks, like going to the supermarket or going to the post office, they feel super overwhelming and intimidating because you're constantly feeling that pressure of, am I going to understand what the person's going to say to me? Are they going to understand me? Right? And when you live in a country where your language is spoken, that just isn't even an issue. So I do see sometimes that living here, in terms of kind of quality of life with the language, it's really tricky. And I think if I knew what I know today, I'm not sure I would have moved here for the language. And I'm honest with you, because it has stifled me a little bit. Like, I do find Italian a little bit difficult. I have gotten so much better. I can have conversations with people now. I can understand things. I watch Italian television shows, but it's difficult because you have regional dialects and you have people that still don't understand, like, your pronunciation, for example, because I will never be able to lose my British pronunciation. And I don't think people should try and pretend, that they are from another country when they're really, from their own. So I will always sound British, even if I try and speak in Italian. But it's this, isn't it? Like, it's not easy. It's not simple. And I think, could I have set my life up in a much easier way if I'd moved to a country where English was more spoken? Of course I could have done, yes. So I feel like in that sense, no, I probably wouldn't move here to the south of Italy again, based on language. What about some other factors? I'm thinking everyday living. Now, I have to be honest with you, I've made significant changes to my life since moving here to the south of Italy, notably around diet, food choices, things like this. And I have absolutely zero regrets. I think that my life in the UK was pretty unhealthy by comparison. And so I'm super, super happy to be living here and to have made the changes that I've made. And so I definitely would move to the south of Italy in terms of everyday living, because you will learn, grow and develop so much, and you will make better lifestyle choices, like learning to slow down more, learning to appreciate things more, learning to be in the moment more, learning to cook, learning to appreciate simple processes, ingredients, making connections with people. All of these things are incredibly important, and I don't think I appreciated them half as much when I lived in the UK. So personally, I definitely would move to the south of Italy for everyday living, absolutely. Now, when it comes to connections, I think this is the trickiest part of living here in the south of Italy, absolutely, particularly if you move here with no existing relationships with people or connections and you don't know anyone at all. It's so difficult to make friends here. I've spoken about it a lot, included in this video up here. It takes time and trust, and honestly, friendship circles here go back many years, so it's really not easy to break into them. You might have the niceties and the friendly comments, but it doesn't mean that you're friends, right? That's something different. And so it's really difficult, and on the one hand, it's pushed me and helped me to grow so much by having to go through this process, but on the other hand, I feel like my life has been unnecessarily difficult because it's not been as simple to meet people, to make connections, for lots of factors, language including, of course. But it's this, I think connections are so important here in Italy, and when you're in a position where you don't have any, you really notice it and feel it. And it's not easy to live here and be completely insular and not communicate with anyone. So I think for me personally, would I still move to the south of Italy, focusing on connections in particular? I think I would, because it has definitely pushed me to speak with people, to get to know new people, but it's just not easy. And that's what I want to stress, because for some people, this is a reason not to come here, because it's really tough when you factor in all of the other aspects that I've spoken about as well, with language, etc. But I would say, in terms of quality of life, I do feel like my life is better now. It's simpler. It's not as flashy or like, you know, as extravagant as it may have been in the past, but it's simpler. Okay. And that's what I really, really enjoy. I enjoy the simple things. I enjoy the simple pleasures. I enjoy meeting people, learning about this country and culture, and learning more about myself as well, because I think all of these aspects help you to grow as a person. So I think, would I move to Italy on a whole, considering all of these aspects and more that I've not mentioned now? Yeah, I would. I would still move to the south of Italy, considering everything that I've spoken about in this video. I feel like it has helped me to grow so much, and life here is not easy. And that's why I'm so real with you on this channel, because you must know what life is like here. It's not like this fantasy that everybody speaks about. It's not. And I feel like though those difficult moments have shaped me and helped me to become better as a person and stronger and more sure within myself. And I feel that's a really, really beautiful thing. And I feel like I have so much more still to learn. Like, I feel like when you move here, you don't move here and know everything. You will constantly and continuously be learning about all aspects of life here. And so I think that's a really, really beautiful thing. So in summary, I have zero regrets about moving to the south of Italy. Even if some aspects have been a bit more challenging than others, I've definitely learned so much on the back of it. And I think you can too, but you just have to be realistic with your expectations, and you have to really understand that life here can look very, very different to other parts of Italy. So it may not be the best place for you. And if you want to dive a bit deeper into specifically why I chose the south of Italy and not like the north, for example, this is the video that I think you should watch next. I will see you in the next video.